My wife ended our marriage at my father's 70th birthday party in 4 minutes at a fire pit, and she has no idea she did it. She was that drunk. I was stone sober, and I know everything. And as I tell you this story, she still does not remember a single word of what she said that night. So, I am going to walk you through the 12 days between the night my wife ended our marriage and the morning she found out. We were married 17 years, and we have a son who is 16. She runs the front desk at a med spa, the kind of place with cucumber water and soft music. My wife is not a big drinker. 2 glasses of wine and she is done. That is her whole speed. But 2 or 3 times in 17 years, at the right kind of party, she has gone past that line, and when she goes past it, she does not get sloppy. She gets confident. She gets loud and warm and sure of herself, and the next day she remembers none of it. It happened at her cousin's wedding years ago. She gave a toast that night we still do not talk about, and the next morning she asked me if she gave a toast. Remember that. The woman blacks out confident. Now the party. My father turned 70 in the spring, and we did it right. My brother and I split the cost. Backyard at my place, barbecue, string lights, 40-some people. Everybody from both sides of the family, neighbors, my dad's old work buddies. My son drove himself to a friend's house around 8, which I only mention, so you know he was gone for all of it. Thank God. There was champagne for the toast, and there was an open cooler, and my wife was the hostess of the year. She ran the food, she organized the group photo, she danced with my father. People kept handing her a glass because she was the fun one to hand a glass to. By 9, she was past her line, not falling down, confident, loud and warm and sure of herself, hugging everybody a little too long. I was not drinking at all because somebody has to drive the leftovers to my parents' place, and somebody has to be able to run to the store, and that somebody at our parties is always me. Everything I am about to tell you, I watched with a clear head. Around 10, the party thinned out to family. My brother and I were breaking down tables and hauling trash bags. My father was in a lawn chair telling stories he has told 70 times, and my wife ended up at the fire pit with my brother's wife. Just the 2 of them, wine glasses, feet up on the stone edge. My brother's wife has been in this family a dozen years. My wife has always treated her a little like a younger sister, and that night, drunk and warm and sure of herself, she decided to treat her like a vault. I was maybe 40 feet away with a trash bag in each hand. I did not hear any of it. What happened at that fire pit came to me secondhand, 1 hour later, from a woman shaking while she told it. Here is what my wife said at my father's birthday party to my brother's wife while I carried trash. She started with the marriage, how long 17 years is, how I am a good man. She said that twice, a good man, before she got to the rest. How nobody tells you that being settled feels the same as being finished. And then she lowered her voice and she said, if I tell you something, it stays at this fire. Swear it. And my brother's wife, holding a paper plate with cake on it, said, okay, because what do you say? And my wife told her there is a man, a trainer from her gym. She said it has been going on for a while. She said, and I am quoting the sentence that gets repeated in my house to this day, it is not a whole thing. It is just mine. Nothing at home is different. And then she laughed and she pointed her glass toward the house, toward me, and she said, he has no idea. And it keeps me sweet with him, honestly. He has no idea. She toasted her own secret at my father's birthday party, 40 feet from her husband, to the one woman in the family who cannot pretend. My brother's wife got up, threw the cake away, and spent the next hour being nowhere near the fire pit. She waited until my wife was inside, saying her long goodbyes, and then she came and found me by the cars, and she stood under the streetlight with her arms crossed, and she said, I have to tell you something, and I do not want to. and then she cried before she got one more word out. That is a woman who has never once made drama in all those years. Her crying was the evidence before she said a word. She told me all of it. The trainer, just mine. He has no idea. Keeps me sweet. I stood there in the street and listened to the whole thing because I made her tell it twice, and I am not proud of that. She had to say those sentences 2 times because I could not make them attached to my wife on the first pass. And then I did something I did not plan and could not tell you the reason for even now. I said, "Thank you." I hugged her, and I went back inside and got my drunk wife a glass of water and walked her up the stairs, and she kissed me and told me it was the best party this family has ever thrown, and she was asleep in 4 minutes. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom and watched her sleep like nothing happened, because for her, nothing had. That is the last normal night of my marriage, and I was the only one in the bed who knew it. Now, here is where this story becomes the story I actually need to tell you, because you think you know what happens next. You think I wake her up, or I wake the house up. There is screaming. There is a suitcase. There was none of that. What happened instead is 12 days, and I want to take you through them almost one by one, because my wife spent those 12 days being the happiest I had seen her in years, and I spent them ending our marriage with a clear head, and she noticed nothing. The woman reads a room for a living, cucumber water, soft music, remembers every client's kid's name, and she never saw one thing. Morning 1, she came down in her robe at 10:30, hair up, sunglasses on inside, laughing at herself. She asked, "How bad was I?" And I looked at her over the coffee with the fire pit sentence sitting in my chest, and I said, "You were the life of the party," which was true. Every word I said to her for 12 days was true. She said, "I got away from myself. I hope I did not say anything stupid." And she laughed, and she took her coffee out to the patio and texted somebody with her feet up on the fire pit stones. Day 2, I called the only lawyer whose name I knew, and he had moved firms, and the new firm had a woman with 20 years in family law, and I took my lunch break in her office. I told her the fire pit, secondhand. She stopped writing and asked me a question. "Will your sister-in-law put what she heard in writing?" I said I did not know. She said, "Find out, and until then, do not confront your wife, do not move money, do not leave the house, and do not tell her anything you would not tell a court reporter. I have followed stranger instructions in my life, but not many." Day 3, my brother and his wife came for dinner, which was already on the calendar from before the party, and that was the strangest meal of my life. My wife cooked. She was bright. She was funny. She told the story of the party like a highlight reel. The dancing, my father crying at the toasts. My brother's wife sat across from her and barely touched the fork, and my wife noticed that because she notices everything except herself, and she said, "Honey, are you okay? You seem off." And my brother's wife said, "Just tired." And my wife reached over and squeezed her hand and said, "You work too hard." I walked them out to their car. In the driveway, my brother's wife handed me a folded piece of paper and got in the passenger seat without a word. 2 pages, handwritten, dated, signed, everything from the fire pit in order, in her writing. At the bottom, under her name, she had written one line, "I am sorry it was me." My brother stood there with his keys and said the only thing he said all night. He said, "Whatever you need, and I will tell you something else. I saw her once, months back, in the parking lot at that gym, sitting in her car with some guy in the passenger seat, and I told myself it was nothing." He had carried that all through dinner. So now, I had a witness account in writing and a second witness who put a man in my wife's parked car. Day 4, the lawyer sent me home for paper, and this is the part I did not expect. There was no snooping in this story. I never touched her phone. 12 days, and I never once looked at her phone, and by the end, I did not need to because the proof had been sitting in our own mailbox for 9 months. The gym, our joint card. In January, the membership went from $40 a month to $260 a month. Premium personal training package. Every month, 9 months, same line item, our card, my statements. She was paying him with our money in plain sight because she knew I never opened those statements. The lawyer highlighted 9 lines in yellow and said, "This is corroboration. And also, you have been buying him protein powder since January." That was her joke, not mine. And while that folder was filling up, my wife was performing the greatest hits of our marriage. I need you to hear this part, because this is the part that made me mad as hell. She booked us a beach trip. Unprompted, day 5, she sent me a hotel confirmation with 3 little heart symbols. And the message for our anniversary, do not say I never planned anything. I looked at that text in while I was at work, and I typed back, "Sounds good." Get used to that phrase because it became my whole vocabulary. She would float a plan, date nights, the trip, redoing the bathroom in the spring, and I would say, "Sounds good." It was the only sentence I could say that was not a lie and not a war. She told me one night, out of nowhere, "We are better than most couples I know," and she meant it. And I said, "Sounds good," and she laughed and called me a romantic and went to bed happy. Day 5 was also the night she posted the throwback. Our wedding photo, the 2 of us cutting cake, and a caption about being lucky enough to marry your best friend. She posted that stone sober on a random weeknight, while the petition sat in a lawyer's drafts folder. And here is what that post really was, though she did not know it. It was a flare over the whole family. My brother saw it. His wife saw it. My mother, who knew nothing yet, commented a heart, and my brother's wife called me that night and said, "I keep feeling like I am the one who did this." And I told her the only true thing there was to tell her. You did not end anything. You told the truth sober, that she told you drunk. That is all you did. She mailed my parents a thank you card. Day 6. Best party this family has ever thrown. Love you both. She picked the card, she wrote it, she mailed it. My mother has thrown that card away since, but she kept it up on the refrigerator for a week, and I had to look at it every morning next to the coffee pot. My wife's handwriting bragging about the night she ended us. Day 7, I drove past the gym. He was in the window with a clipboard, mid-20s, standing over some other woman's shoulder, counting her reps. I sat there through one red light and looked at him. Then the light changed, and I drove to work. And that is the whole confrontation. That is all he ever got from me. He was not the one who made me promises. I thought hard about whether one drunk night should get this much weight. I want you to know I gave her that alone, in my own head, for about a day. People say things drunk, but here is where I landed, and it is the reason the folder kept growing instead of getting shredded. The drinking did not invent the trainer. January did not happen drunk. 9 months of charges did not happen drunk. The drunk part was the only honest part. The fire pit was not her mistake. It was her confession. Day 8, the retainer. Day 9, the petition drafted. Day 10, I opened my own account and redirected my next paycheck, which the lawyer cleared first. My money going forward, nothing joint touched. Day 10 is also the day my son left for a school trip, 3 days, 2 states away. And I will be honest with you, I checked that calendar before I ever picked a date with the lawyer. Whatever was going to happen in my house, he was not going to be in it. The night before the papers came, she tried on dresses for the beach trip and asked me which one. I stood in the hallway with the folder of gym charges in my work bag, while my wife held a yellow dress against herself in the mirror and asked, "This one or the blue?" I said the blue. She said, "Good eye." That night she fell asleep on my shoulder on the couch during a show about house flipping, and I sat there under the weight of her head for 1 full hour, and that was the only time in 12 days I almost broke. Not to scream, the other direction, to let it all be a bad dream and keep the shoulder and the show and the yellow dress. And then I remembered the glass pointing at me. He has no idea. And the weight on my shoulder went back to being just weight. Day 12. A process server knocked at 9:40 in the morning. I was there. I took the day off because you do not send a stranger to do that to your wife of 17 years and drive away, whatever she did. She signed for it thinking it was a package. She actually said, "Ooh." She thought it was the beach sandals. I will tell you exactly what watching that was like. It was the fire pit, reversed. This time she was the sober one. She opened the envelope, and the first word she said was, "What?" Not sad, confused, like a wrong order at a drive-thru. "What the hell is this?" And then she looked up at me, and here is the thing that proves everything I have told you about those 12 days. There was no guilt on her face, none. She had no idea what this was about. She was served divorce papers, and her face was innocent because, as far as her memory went, she was a good wife booking beach trips, and her husband had lost his mind on a random morning. She said, "Is this a joke?" She said, "What did I even do?" And she meant it. That is the part I cannot get anybody to believe. Is there someone else? Is that it? Are you seeing somebody? My wife asked me that, standing in our entryway holding a divorce petition with 9 months of premium personal training on our joint card. Then it was, "Your family never liked me. Your mother finally got to you. Is that what this is?" She went through every explanation in the house except the one at the fire pit, because she did not have that one. She truly did not. So I told her. I had promised myself I would do it calm, and I would not lose my temper. I said, "The night of Dad's party at the fire pit, you told my brother's wife about the trainer. You told her it has been going on for months. You told her it is just mine, and nothing at home is different. And then you pointed your glass at me and said, 'He has no idea.' And my wife, and I will hear this until I die, said, 'I would never say that.' Not, 'It is not true.' Not, 'There is no trainer.' Her instinct, one beat after the world ended, was, 'I would never say it.' And then she stood very still for a second, and I watched her check her own memory and find the hole where that night should be. And for the first time in 12 days, my wife looked afraid, because she could not tell me what she did or did not say at that fire pit. She has no access to it. She was that drunk, and she knew it, and she watched me watch her realize it. The rest went the way these things go, but shorter. She called my brother's wife that afternoon. I do not know everything that was said. I know it lasted a few minutes, about the length of the fire pit. She did not deny the trainer to the lawyers, because January to September was sitting in yellow highlighter, and her attorney went through the file and told her, "Settle." We mediated once. She wanted speed after that, because every week it stayed open. Was another week the whole family knew, and her whole life is being the woman everybody likes. I kept the house and bought out her share with the retirement math. My son stays with me during the school year. That was his ask, and he made it himself, and neither of us coached him, and his reasons are his own. The beach trip never got canceled, by the way. Neither of us thought of it until the hotel called about the deposit a month later. First, it was a party. Then it was a fire pit. Then it was an envelope. And somewhere in a computer, there was still a room booked with 2 names on it. My father turns 71 next month. It is at my brother's place this year, smaller. My brother's wife is doing the cake herself, and my son is driving, and I am bringing the chairs. We counted last week, and we need 1 less than last year. She still does not remember the fire pit. 17 years ended in 4 minutes she does not have. Everybody else at that party has them for her. I've covered a lot of stories on my channel, but this is crazy. But I'm going to say my piece. Listen, she wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry for what she said. Listen, folks, if you're going to live some type of double life, you better learn to hold your liquor. I will see you in the next one.